Oh boy.
Why won't you die?
Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those two others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason.
I... So, for those of you new to the channel, I like to keep things pretty positive here. This whole channel's kind of, I mean, it's firstly and foremost just a place for me to just do whatever I want. But when it comes to like movie stuff, which is predominantly what I do, it's really all about bringing positive ideas forward and, you know, suggesting things, bringing kind of cult movies to light, or even like movies that are so obscure that they can't even be considered cult movies, just obscure movies to light. And so, you know, I focus a lot on boutique Blu-ray labels. You know, I've reviewed some gay porn. Like I'm it's a very open channel. You know, I'm open to anything, and I generally like more things that I watch than most people would. Like most things that I watch, I wind up at least finding something favorable to say. Even if I am not particularly fond of the film, there's usually something there. And I think I made that clear in this series. I mean, I just did a review where I said that Jason Takes Manhattan, while kind of a shitty movie, is still, you know, pretty good, all things considered. This one's going to be awkward. I don't even know that this is really much of a review. I feel very awkward saying bad things about movies. I have a few videos where I'm kind of a dick about movies, but for the most part, I stay away from that for many reasons. And for this video, I actually had an idea. I was going to shave my beard, because I need to shave anyway. I was going to, you know, take a shower, shave, and then record the video, with the thought process being that, you know, maybe someone will get the joke. I'm referencing the part in the movie where there's that awkward shaving scene. And I went to start this video, and I thought about it, and I said, you know, I do have the time. I could go take a shower, shave. Like, I'm probably going to do it later anyway. But then I thought to myself, you know what, Michael? What's even the point? Why even make a joke for people to pick up on when the whole video is just going to be you trashing this movie? And honestly, like, if I wasn't doing this series, I probably wouldn't even review this. So if you're a big fan of this movie, you know, if you're fine with people having different opinions, I mean, you're a fan of this movie, so you probably are someone who's okay with other opinions. But if you don't like hearing people trash the movie you like, and in some cases love, you know, some people it's their favorite movie of the franchise, maybe just click off now and don't finish, because I'm not going to be very nice to this film. That being said, I am going to start off with a list of all the things I enjoyed in Jason Goes to Hell, just to have it out there. So number one, the opening. Despite some pretty awful dubbing. Oh, by the way, I should note actually that I only watched the unrated version for this review. I thought about doing the theatrical as well, but I figure, honestly, like, how many people are actually going to be watching the theatrical version of this film? Probably not a whole lot. So I didn't even, like, when I get to the extras, I didn't even rip all the extras, because I only ripped the unrated disc. Anyway, so things I liked about the movie. Number one, the opening. Despite the awful dubbing, it is a phenomenal start to the film. I love that they cast a stunt woman in the role. It adds a lot to her scenes later as it goes along. I think that it is, if that was like a short film, great. Like, so the first few minutes of this film are fantastic. So I will give director Adam Marcus that much. The opening is a fantastic piece. Again, I don't like the weird dubbing with Jason. I don't really understand why that is there. And it's not the most accomplished piece of filmmaking as far as like a production value standpoint. I think that there's a lot of problems as it goes through. The way that Jason's head falls at the end is kind of awkward. And this isn't Adam Marcus's fault, but this is just something that like this is not like a major criticism of the movie real quick, but it always bothers me watching the explosion where Jason is like is literally destroyed and you see his head spinning in the air, and it's a cool moment, except you can see the white foam rubber or whatever where it was, because it was literally like the dummy that they blew up. And I wish that the effects team had like given a dye job to the foam rubber. I mean, you can do that so that the pieces, as they're flying through the air, you can't see that whiteness inside, because it really, like, it just, my eye goes straight for it every time. And I know that's a stupid detail. It is not one of my criticisms of this movie. It's just something I wanted to point out as a thing that sticks with me. But the opening in general is great. It's a series of, it's this woman doing a series of things that she shouldn't be doing in a horror movie, leading to the big stalk and slash sequence. But the twist is that she's actually an FBI agent, and she's led Jason to a trap, and the FBI has cornered this mass murderer, as they should have at this point, and they give him everything they've got, they blow him up, and that is potentially the end of Jason. That is, that's great. Is it terribly original? I don't think so. I think Adam Marcus is just the first one to have the access to Sean S. Cunningham, to have access to the franchise, to come up with it. It seems, I'm pretty sure most kids would have come up with this, and this is kind of a problem that I'll have throughout the film. It's very much the kind of concept that you would see like either kids in the schoolyard talking about, or in a really over the top 90s comic book. But I'll get into that more. Maybe. I don't know. My notes are very scattershot for this one. But I'll get into that. This is the positive side of things. Number 2, Kane Hodder's cameo. I love Kane Hodder's cameo in this. I think it's hilarious. It is a great bit of comedic storytelling. And, for fans who know who it is, which I think at this point everybody knows what Kane Hodder looks like, so, we all catch it. It's a great bit, and I love that bit. Number 3, the special effects. No matter what I say about this film, I cannot say anything negative, for the most part, with the exception of that fucking head, about the special effects, because they are, by and large, fantastic. All of the gory kills hit just right. There's a lot of grossness to this film that's really well done when the, coroner, what's his character's name? Does he have a let's see. Richard Gant, just the coroner. Okay. So I feel like he has a name in the movie, maybe not, but Richard Gant, when he's eating the heart and he like throws up all that black goop, that's really good. Like, that's great stuff. When it comes to like splatter, this is very much a splatter movie. I think I'm actually, I just realized I could totally use this for my 61 Days of Halloween as a splatter film, because it very much is a splatter film. So I like that. I'm not so big on the demon thing, but that's fine. That's early 90s. What are you going to do? Of course, the tent kill, the kill with the piece, the rebar or pipe or whatever, that he sticks through the tent into the woman and then and splits her in half. I disagree that it's the best kill in the franchise, and I'll get to that in another video, but I do think that it is one of the best kills in the franchise. And, I think I chalk that up mostly to the fact that at this point they had fewer problems I chalk that up to, at this point, they could actually preserve the kill. So while it's not, in all its glory in the theatrical cut, it is basically exactly as it needs to be in the unrated cut, because they could conserve those things, or were conserving those things. I guess they always could, but they were at that point. But nonetheless, it's a great piece of special effects work, and I think it's phenomenal. The melting man bit is fantastic. That is a beautiful effect. Oddly enough, the finale has the worst effects. Those hands are awful, coming up from the earth. Those look, it's just giant Muppets coming after Jason. I'm also not a big fan of Jason's look in this. I like the idea quite a bit. I'm very fond of the idea. I don't know about the execution. I think the execution leaves a lot to be desired. He just looks like a burnt marshmallow for the most part. But I guess he's also not in the movie very much, so, no big deal, I guess. But the special effects are phenomenal, and they're definitely, just as physical effects, the best of the franchise. And they should be. At this point, it is the, latest in the series. And, I would say the 90s we reached our apex of just quality physical special effects. So, as they should look amazing, they do look amazing. So that's great. You can't take that from the movie. Phenomenal special effects. Number 4, the Gonzo approach. The way the movie doesn't seem to give a fuck is a bit of a double-edged sword I'll get into later. But there's a lot of energy and bizarre decision-making that can, at times, be really, really fun in this film. There's a lot of fun to be had. What's the character's name? I don't remember which character's name it is, but Stephen Freeman and his friend, Stephen Freeman played by John D. LeMay, his relationship with his cop friend is great. I love their little tussle outside the cop car where he tells him to take him in when he realizes that his love interest is at the station. I think that's really good. It does come off a bit film school dialogue-ish, but I think the actors really sell it, and that's all that really matters. If it sells, it sells. And there's a lot of moments like that in the film. I think Joey and her, oh fuck, I forgot, Pookie. Joey and Pookie are great. I love the diner dynamics. Billy Greenbush as the Sheriff Landis, is, he's Billy Greenbush. He's a great actor, and so he's great. Although he's not part of the Gonzo approach. I just went on a tangent there because I was talking about actors. But yeah, there is an approach to this. The plot itself of a body hopping demon is an idea that works. It is a good idea to a degree. It is a very good idea. We'll talk about the execution, but it's a lot of fun ideas. The coroner scene that opens the film after the prelude is great. Dean Laurie's cameo as the other coroner, the coroner's assistant, or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. His whole thing about just telling Jason all the things he'd like to say to him since he's dead and right there while Jason's in the coroner's body is a great gag. Like, there's a lot of great little things. Stephen Culp's character, this sort of douchebag journalist, is fantastic. He's not really part of the Gonzo element, but I'm just going to move on. I keep going back to actors. So number 5 thing that I really like about this movie is the characters. And not all of the characters. I think a big problem with this film is that it has a few too many characters vying for lead role status or like major supporting. Like, there's a lot of characters who are given the weight of someone more important than they really are. And that's not necessarily bad in an ensemble drama or something where you have time to explore that. But this movie doesn't really have the time to explore that. There's too many other things to do. And so you wind up with just this glut of characters, and watching it for the first time, I think that it can be very confusing as to who you're supposed to be following, what's going on exactly. And if you're a great filmmaker, you can make that work. You can pull the bait and switch. And this one kind of tries to do that with with Diana's mother. But as much as he would like to think he is, Adam Marcus is not Hitchcock. But the overall characters, as I said, Billy Greenbush is fantastic. Fantastic maybe is a strong word, but he has a presence to him that works really well. I wouldn't say he gives the best performance around, but Stephen Williams as Creighton Duke. Creighton Duke is probably the best thing about this movie, even if his character is, in my opinion, underutilized. I think, he brings a lot of energy, a lot of charisma, and just the sheer weirdness of his character really works for the most part. And so, yeah, there's too many characters, but the ones that are good are really good, primarily because they have great actors and some really fun dialogue. But fun dialogue does not make for a necessarily great film. It just makes for fun dialogue. Anyway, number 6. I actually don't have anything for number 6. Manfredini's score is pretty good. It's got a nice epic quality to it. So that score is pretty dope. Dope, 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 dope. Yeah. This is a bummer. Because I remember not particularly loving Jason Goes to Hell, and I hadn't watched it in a couple years. Maybe 3 years, maybe. And I remember the last time I watched it, I was a little disappointed. I didn't like it as much, but I still thought it was fun. And then the time before that, so years and years ago when I first saw it, I remember really, really enjoying it, because it was so outlandish and weird. And so over time, it's just really gone downhill for me. Now, my mother always taught me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But she also taught me the word cunt. So she's maybe not the best moral arbiter in the world. So, yeah, this movie, Sean S. Cunningham, he was working with New Line. They had gotten the rights to Friday the 13th. And Adam Marcus, who had grown up as the best friend of Sean Cunningham's son, Noel, he came to him with a different idea, and they were working together. He PA'd on some Sean S. Cunningham projects. He was working with the Cunningham family because, he'd grown up with them. He had grown up with the movies. He saw all of them in theaters. So he was a very close friend of the Cunninghams. And he had gone to film school and started working with the Cunninghams. And I guess he had come, I don't remember the full story because there was a lot of information to unpack and I don't care enough. But basically, Sean S. Cunningham was like, hey, we have the rights to Friday the 13th and New Line, is up for making a movie. What do you got? And basically, they took this idea that from my understanding, was a different film entirely and adapted it to Friday the 13th. Originally, there were several ideas that were bandied about, including my personal favorite is the idea to take Jason and put him in LA and have him basically kill off members of rival gangs, kind of like Predator, kind of like Predator 2. And, that's not a bad idea. He refers, Adam Marcus, in some of the supplemental materials, refers to Jason as a shark, like Jaws, and that's very accurate. That is a very accurate way of describing Jason. I think that you could take Jason and put him just about anywhere, and he could adapt to that situation and still work perfectly as Jason. The first few movies have very much a need to be at Camp Crystal Lake, but I think as time went on, Jason Takes Manhattan had a good idea, take him out of the woods, put him in the city. Didn't quite work out, but, you got the taste, and the taste was pretty good. So that idea is great. But they wound up scrapping that. And Sean S. Cunningham, he wanted, money, first of all. This is obviously a money thing. But he wanted no mask. He told Adam Marcus, no mask. Now, Adam Marcus, per his own, I think this was part of the interview, he did not really want to make a Friday the 13th movie, particularly. That wasn't really his cup of tea as far as where he saw himself as a director. He wanted to make kind of an Evil Dead movie. which is very apparent in the final product, and one of the reasons this feels like a fucking fan film. And the audience, I assume, wanted a Friday the 13th movie. And that's not what they got at all. So for those of you who haven't watched the movie, somehow, it is basically the idea that Jason is, in reality, a body-hopping demon that was, and I'm kind of taking, some of this is from Adam Marcus and not the movie, because a lot of the movie does not actually spell this out for you at all. But basically the idea is that Pamela Voorhees got her hands on the Necronomicon at some point, and in her grief went a little bit nutty and summoned Jason as more or less a Deadite. And yeah, that's Adam Marcus wants you to know that officially in canon, because he made the fucking movie, that Jason is a Deadite. And so anyway, so they kill Jason, and Jason, his body parts are taken to the coroner, and he's like documenting it, and he's weighing Jason's heart, and then Jason's heart starts to beat, and the coroner, who Richard Gant fucking owns this role. He's so good in this role. He sees the heart, and he through just perfect acting, tells us, the audience, that he wants to eat the fuck out of this heart. And so he takes the heart and he bites into it and he eats that heart. And it is a great scene. And he becomes possessed by Jason, by this demon that's in Jason. And we later learn through Creighton Duke, who is this renowned bounty hunter of mass killers, presumably supernatural killers, because, I mean, he knows a lot about that. We learn that basically there's just this whole rule set that we were not previously aware of in other Jason films about oh yeah, he's a body-hopping demon. He's been hopping bodies. We've never seen this, of course. This is not, a part of any Friday the 13th film. We've had a pretty close, strict understanding of where Jason's body is and what is happening to it at all times. At no point have we lost track of Jason's body beyond really, maybe the second film, I guess, technically lose track because he doesn't die, he just kind of disappears. But, for the most part, we've had a pretty strict chain of custody with Jason's body. So at no point have we seen this, but yeah, sure. He just hops bodies, apparently. That's a thing he does, despite it looking like he's just the same old Jason, but, puffed up in this one. And so we get this coroner, and goodbye Jason. No more Jason in the movie. This coroner goes and he starts killing people, and he travels all the way from, I think, Ohio is where the coroner's office is supposed to be. I don't remember why. I assume because it's a secure facility. Either which way, he travels all the way to Crystal Lake in New Jersey and kills a bunch of people. We don't see that, but we hear about it on the news, which is by the way, very 80s, 90s comic book thing to do. Having that news bit tell you the story. It's very much like an Alan Moore or Frank Miller type, storytelling tool. And he returns to Crystal Lake, and you might be thinking, oh, that's cool. We get to explore Crystal Lake. We get to learn about the people that no, not really. You get the diner, and you get the sheriff's department, and that's about it. That's really the long and short of Crystal Lake. You really don't get a good idea of what this town is. You don't get a good idea of what it's like to live here. As much as Adam Marcus seems to think he got that across, you really don't get that. In this town, we get the sister of Jason Voorhees, played by Erin Gray. Her name is Diana Kimball. And we get Jessica Kimball, her daughter. And then we get Jessica's daughter in turn. So we get a whole Voorhees family. And Creighton Duke is there, and he's like, we got to use this magical dagger to take care of Jason, because he needs a body, a Voorhees body, because all his other bodies deteriorate. Creighton Duke just knows this. And only a Voorhees can kill Jason, so fucking do it. And this all leads to a conclusion in the Voorhees house, where they use they show the Necronomicon, and then they use a dagger, and they kill Jason, and he goes bye-bye into hell, thanks to all the Muppet hands, and then Freddy's glove comes up and is like, this is not Freddy Krueger's laugh, but ha 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 ha, and that's the movie. In between that, there's a bunch of kills, but it's really, that's the movie, is Jason comes back to his hometown and swaps bodies with a bunch of people, and he shaves a man, and then he dies and goes to hell. Oh, after sliding up into Diana's corpse via her pussy. So, normal stuff. Very, very, standard issue for this franchise, if we're being honest. What the fuck even is this? Honestly, what is it? What is this movie? Okay. I'm gonna get to the obvious in a second, but a big part of this film series, is its iconography. The iconography of this series is very, very important to what makes it work. Because at the end of the day, it's just another slasher movie. Every entry in this film is a slasher movie up until this point. And what makes those movies special is the Jason character, and, to a degree, the production team. The production team always put out pretty much roughly the same quality of movie as came before. That would take they would take steps down or take steps up, but more or less the quality remained consistent. The style remained consistent. There was a consistency. And for a franchise, consistency is kind of important. That doesn't mean you can't change over time, but ideally you do it, relatively slowly. You can make big, you can make big differences. James Bond has done this. Casino Royale was a big difference, but it still kept key components. Even if it made the character blonde and changed the tone and, tried to make something a little bit more modern, it still was a James Bond movie. And Friday the 13th, no matter what Sean Cunningham might have wanted, is the Jason show. That's just what it is. He might not have wanted that, but he also didn't have a lot of plans for the first fucking movie. So I don't know where the artistic license is there, where he's like, this is my precious baby. But he didn't have any real solid plans for this franchise. It took on a life of its own. People said, we like that character, and we like that mask, and that's what we want. So those are the movies that got made, and those are the movies that fans enjoyed. And that iconography of that mask, and more specifically of Jason as a killer, the way he lumbers about, the silent nature, the kind of hillbilly chic thing, the fact that he has a fucked up face, it all works as part of the iconography. And if you take him out, there's going to be a problem. I mean, just like, look at Roy. Roy causes a big kerfuffle even though he's dressed up as Jason for most of the movie, and most of the movie basically plays out as if it was Jason. But people got fucking pissed because it wasn't Jason. And while I disagree with that, and I, of course, enjoy Part 5, you can look at that as a lesson in, fans want a specific thing. They want Jason. Jason was a potential for the killer in the first movie. He wound up just being the thing that, caused it, but really, his drowning is the impetus for what happens. And then from that point on, he's the killer. So hell, he's what people remembered when they left the first Friday the 13th. They remember him jumping out of the water and grabbing Alice and dragging her down. That's what they were left with. And so you need Jason in one of these movies for it to work. Or you need a facsimile of Jason. You need the iconography. This is conflicting because I believe that, between an artist and an audience, the artist is the one who really should hold the power. I don't think the audience should tell the artist what to do. At the same time, when you're working with something like this, that is based on exploitation, that is a business, that is not, as much about the art, at least from Cunningham's perspective. I don't think that his way of looking at this is the art. I think his way of looking at this is as a business, and I'm okay with that. I have zero issue with that. But when you're looking at it from the business standpoint, you can't just all of a sudden say, you know what, fuck that mask. Because what you're left with is the need to make a fucking great movie. And if they made a fucking great movie out of this concept, I would not be ranting right now. This would be a fun video, but it's not, because they didn't make a good movie. And as I said at the top, if you love this film, kudos. You can love it. I am not saying that you're wrong. I would never say that. You like what you like. This is just my opinion and my fucking long-ass rant. Most of this is going to be me talking about Adam Marcus, because he was the driving force behind this. At the end of the day, he's the one that decided we should do the body hopping thing. You know, I do feel like a lot of it is on Cunningham for saying he wanted the mask out of the picture, but there were other ways to do that, I'm sure. And one of them, actually, you know what, even then, it's not even the body hopping that I have a problem with, it's the implementation. So anyway, a lot of people will say, and this is kind of the obvious, this is what I feel like a lot of people in the comments will say without finishing the video, or would say if I didn't mention it. But there's this thing where like, oh, well, you know, it pissed people off. It pissed people off who were fanboys. And if you don't like this movie, you're a fanboy, or you're thinking too hard about it, or something. Now, first off, I'm not a fanboy. I do love Friday the 13th. I have never and will never shit on a movie in a franchise just for trying something different. I welcome difference. I love movies that just go off and do their own fucking thing. I love movies that go hog wild and just say fuck it. I think that's the greatest thing in the world, when filmmakers just go fuck it, I'm going to do my own thing. But that is not in and of itself quality. There is nothing quality about saying fuck it. Fuck it is just the prelude to what you do, and what you do is hopefully quality. Just because your movie causes controversy and pisses off fans doesn't make it good or worthwhile. In fact, it has you fucking working uphill the entire time. If I shot 90 minutes of ball torture and I called it Friday the 13th Part 13, the pissed off fans wouldn't make it a good movie. It would still be 90 minutes of ball torture, and, you know, I can just go to Pornhub for that. I don't need to go to a Friday the 13th movie for ball torture. And just because the fans don't want ball torture doesn't mean I made a good movie. Just because the fans say, hey, I paid to see a Friday the 13th movie and all I got was ball torture, my response to that would not be, oh, see, I subverted your expectations. And I know, I just realized that, you know, Last Jedi haters will really latch onto this probably. Big difference. Big difference. Maybe a conversation for another time. Maybe not. I don't really like that whole thing. It's a bunch of ridiculousness. But I just realized that as I was talking. Now, as far as the idea of divorcing the film from its predecessors. Firstly, when your movie is title character of the franchise goes to hell, the final Friday, that's tough. It's going to be challenging for me to divorce myself from this universe of 8 fucking films that came before when your movie is predicated on that franchise. But okay, let's look at this as just another movie. I'll also ignore The Hidden, because Adam Marcus said in an interview, probably in several, but in the interview on this disc, that he had not seen The Hidden before making this movie. And I believe him. I have no reason to think he's lying. You know, The Hidden is not the most original concept. And honestly, the need for wanton destruction that comes with the alien and that is kind of more interesting than the body hopping aspect, which I guess is in here as, it doesn't matter. The point is, it's not The Hidden, and I'm not going to bother with that because he didn't see the movie. Fine. He made a different movie that happened to be a lot like The Hidden, which did this much better, but that's okay. Different wavelengths, whatever. As a movie by itself, let's say as maybe a deconstruction of the slasher genre, whatever, it's still just poorly made. Again, outside of the effects, which are fucking fantastic, it's visually really dire to look at. It is a gross, bland film that does not really have much going on behind the camera. It does not really, like, there's, it's one of those, it's a movie that thinks split diopter shots are really cool and edgy. That's what we're dealing with here. And I hate to break it to you, bud, you're not Brian De Palma. You can't just break one of those out and, be off to the races. You gotta give me more than that. And most of the work here is just fine at best. That doesn't mean that no one, that people didn't do their jobs or they did them necessarily poorly, but there's nothing here that stands out visually. And most of it is pretty meh early 90s genre movie. It doesn't do much. It's probably, in fact, I would say the ugliest movie in the franchise. And then the rules. The rules are, they're nonsensical. They seem to have little to no real logic behind them. Like, it's just, hey, here's some rules. And, obviously a part of this is the fact that it is married to this previous reality. And so if you do, again, divorce it from that, it's still all very arbitrary. There's no reasoning given behind this. And it's just this one guy who knows for some reason. And I'm willing to accept that to a degree, but there's just a lot here that is predicated on, oh yeah, the Necronomicon. Like, that's really what it comes down to is, oh yeah, all this makes sense because the Necronomicon, which is the easiest fucking scapegoat you could like, there's no attempt at originality there. There's no attempt at actual, like, thinking. It's, oh yeah, the Necronomicon, and so he's a body-hopping demon, and to send him to hell, of course, blood relative, and this magic dagger that came out of nowhere. Like, it's the most basic, bitch, by-the-book, supernatural explanation they could come up with. So this is the grand idea. This is Adam Marcus's grand vision, is a story we've seen a million times with body hopping. And body hopping's not even original. I mean, fucking The Thing, whatever. Body hopping is not an original concept. None of these supernatural aspects, none of the arcane rituals, none of it is original in the slightest. So this idea that Adam Marcus is bringing something new to the franchise, sure, he's bringing new ideas for this franchise, but he's not bringing actual new ideas. He's taking old hat, genre bullshit that we've seen dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of times, and injecting it into a franchise in which it does not belong. That's really what he's doing. Now, the characters are well played, they're given fun lines, we already talked about that, but they're underdeveloped. And really, there's too many of them vying for the lead for most of the film, as I mentioned. So, there's nothing about this that makes it a good film. Again, and I just want to point this out, if you like it, that's fine. Like, there's plenty of movies that I understand are bad movies that I like. There's plenty of movies that I see all the flaws in, and I still enjoy it. Adam Marcus went on to co-write Texas Chainsaw 3D, a film that is complete horseshit, but I actually really like. I don't know. It's just, taste is weird that way. But I can say that Texas Chainsaw 3D is not really a good film. It does not make sense, and there are a lot of decisions, both narratively and from a production standpoint, that are complete garbage. I just happen to have a good time with it. And Jason Goes to Hell, I don't think you can make a good argument for this being a quality film through and through. Obviously, if you like it, you like it. That doesn't matter. I know I keep harping on that. I feel weird because I know I'm shitting on somebody's favorite movie. I've been told this is people's favorite Friday the 13th, and I feel so bad shitting on it. But I had a visceral reaction to this movie this time that I did not have before. It's kind of crazy. But and you know what? Just to get this all these points across, I should skip to the end. So, in conclusion, do I hate Jason Goes to Hell? No, I don't hate it. Mostly because I'm physically unable to hate most things, especially movies. It takes a lot for me to hate a movie. I can't say off the top of my head the title of a movie that I actually hate. Like, there's probably been an instance in the past where I've come pretty close. And maybe even there is one, I'm just not thinking of it right now. But I don't really hate movies. Now, does Jason Goes to Hell push that for me? Yes, it does. It is a very frustrating experience. luckily there are positives I can point to. There are entertaining aspects, as noted at the top of the video. But in the end, it's such a self-indulgent piece of shit with so little to justify that indulgence. Directed very obviously by a film school graduate in the early 90s, like with all the tropes there, that I really just dislike this film. And I wanted to love this. I want to point that I wanted to love this. I feel like there is a part of me that is contrarian to some degree, where I see a movie that people don't like and I just want to love it. And there's movies like that. A lot of people hate Freddy Got Fingered. I fucking love Freddy Got Fingered so much. It is one of my favorite movies. Nothing But Trouble. I love that. Nothing But Trouble. Electric Dreams is one of my favorite movies. There's a lot of movies out there that people hate that I love. So many shot on video movies that I just have an ungodly passion for. People can't even sit through. So, I wanted to love it. The idea is great, albeit unoriginal and derivative. The idea of exploring that supernatural side of Jason, to get out of Crystal Lake, ditch the normal formula, try something new. And if it was done well, I'd be cool with a Jason movie that featured 10 minutes of actual Jason. I'm by no means against weird diversions, especially for long-running franchises, but again, that does rely on the movie being well-made, well-written, and ideally given, actual thought. Sean S. Cunningham didn't really want to make this movie. Adam Marcus didn't really want to make this movie. If we're being honest with ourselves, he didn't want to make this movie. And man, that's fucking obvious. And that's I've been trying to go along with something unique about every one of these movies. And going into this, I was thinking I'll find something to enjoy about this. I really don't know that I have anything to say about this that in regards to me enjoying it. I guess it's the one that just does its own thing. I mean, that's true. It is the one that just does its own thing. So I guess if you really are not fond of the formula and you have no interest in Jason as an icon, and you just want something different, and you want just a schlocky splatterfest, here it is. This is that movie in the franchise. And, since people do love it, I guess, there is something to that. So that's what makes it unique, I guess. Let's just talk about the extras. I have the Blu-ray here. It's a new 2K scan of the inner positive. And in the case of the unrated version, there are HD inserts of the old footage. And they blend right in. I did not notice the inserts whatsoever. Of course, one of them's missing right now, but I'll get that new disc, and I'm sure it'll look fine. So, and of course, you get the 5.1, you get the HD master stereo audio. It all sounds great, and it looks fine. Honestly, it looks perfectly good. I don't have any issues with how this movie looks. It looks the actual scan. I think the scan looks great. So you get both the unrated and the theatrical version. Again, I did not watch the theatrical disc at all, so yeah. You do get a... So I'm going to go through the new stuff first. You get an audio commentary with Adam Marcus and author Peter Bracke. So this commentary, after he goes through the initial scene, which is fine, he starts complaining about the extras he brought in to play the FBI team who kills Jason, or who kill Jason. And he was frustrated with them and is talking down about them, and this is something that'll come up again, talking down about people, because they were mad they weren't getting pay bumps for all the extra stuff they had to do. Because normally extras, you just sit in the background, you walk around, something like that. But he was giving them guns and having them, do these basically choreographed movements, I would assume. And he was upset that they wanted more money for that. And it's yeah, they're working. This is a job. If you do extra stuff, you get paid extra. It's a job. And look, if I was in their position and I was on a Jason movie and they were like, "Hey, you're gonna get a gun and you're gonna be part of the team that blows up Jason," I would be like, "Fuck Yes, all right. You know what? Pay me less. Put some money in your coffers, because this is all the money, all the payment I need is to be in this scene. But I'm a nerd. I'm a horror freak. I love this franchise. If I'm on a Friday movie and I find out I'm going to be killing Jason, fuck yeah, I will not ask for any money. But I am not most people. I am not most extras. And those extras deserve to be paid more. So fuck you, Adam Marcus. You were the asshole in that situation. Yeah, you don't hire extras for that. He also doesn't seem to have a very high regard for the unique qualities of the previous entries or for the work of the directors. He's specifically states that he wanted to give this entry, quote, a filmmaker's approach. You fucking douchebag. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then he compares his journey as a filmmaker to Orson Welles. And this is just the first 12 minutes of the commentary, by the way. After 15 minutes, I shut it off because I couldn't bear it anymore. I was like, my blood sugar was dropping. I was about to get like heart issues. Like, I was livid by how fucking full of himself this guy was. And a big thing I get from this commentary, at least the 15 minutes that I listened to, is that Adam Marcus, he wanted to do something different. That's the operative word here for him. He wanted to do something different, man. He wanted to put a stamp on it, which, by the way, is what every film school student thinks. This is the exact mindset of someone who just graduated film school. He wanted to ditch tradition. He wanted to ignore the tropes, make something that was different. The problem is that being different is great when you have purpose behind it. We talked about this already, but there needs to be a reason you're being different. Otherwise, it's an empty statement. If the purpose is just, I want to be different, then who the fuck cares? He also mentions here and elsewhere that he wanted to make a movie for people in their 20s, which I don't even know what that means. When I was in my 20s, you know what I liked? Friday the 13th. But apparently that's not what people in their 20s are supposed to like or do like. I don't know. Maybe I'm confused because I apparently don't know what someone in their 20s, despite having 10 years of being in my 20s, I don't know what people in their 20s want. That's on me, I guess. Another thing, he really wants to blame the audience for not liking his movie. His interpretation of this, it seems to be that having characters who are adults themselves makes the movie more adult, which is not how it works either. It's still a 90s comic book movie that you're making. It's not a movie aimed at adults just because you have adults with adult problems. You know, oh, she has a kid. Who the fuck cares? We had a pregnant girl in part 3. We've been dealing with issues for a while in this franchise. No matter how well they've worked out, which it didn't work out very well for this movie, so I'm not going to count that against those. We've had issues. Yours are just come with age, I guess. Also, like, your characters aren't like, oh no, they're in their 20s. That's still young, asshole. I realize he's like 25 or something making this, but that doesn't make you a fucking that much different from these other movies. Anyway, also, like, I mean, one of our best adult characters in the franchise is in part 6, the sheriff. He's great. His whole character is based around protecting his town and his daughter, and then he ends up getting killed saving his daughter because he doesn't want a maniac murdering her. Like, that's an adult problem. He has a kid. Come on. I think the point where I just lost it was when he made reference to people complaining about the lack of Jason, and he said that he's in it the whole movie. Just look at his reflection. That's what he said. He said, just look at his reflection when he's passing by the fridge. He's in it the whole movie. Wow, fuck you, man. Fuck you. You know what they mean. You fucking know what they mean. The audience isn't fucking stupid. They know that Jason's in the body of other people. But it's not really Jason. You know, they don't move like Jason. In fact, Kane Hodder in his interview specifically notes that most of the actors who played Jason in this movie did not take his notes on how to play Jason. So, and that makes me assume that you did not tell them to play it like Kane Hodder, which then tells me you didn't actually care about them being Jason. You didn't give a fuck. But you're going to pretend you did. And you're going to pretend that it's the audience's fault that you made a bad movie because you're an asshole. And then after that, he goes on a whole tangent about how he wanted his movie to be logical. Because somehow the other movies weren't logical. He also has this thing where he seems to think that the ending of part 1 wasn't a dream, which I thought we all agreed that it was a dream sequence. I don't know where the memo went up that that was real, but I've always seen it as pretty obviously a dream sequence. I don't know, but he has this thing like, oh, how'd he grow up in 2 feet in 2 weeks? He didn't. He was already big because he was already alive. It's just she imagined him taking her into the water. It's not a perfect ending, but that's what it is. It's a dream. Goddamn. Anyway, let's play the logic game, Adam Marcus. Why does Jason show up in that mirror? I could maybe understand if you did something really artsy with it, like maybe you see Jason in the mirror as like, naked Jason with his part 3 sort of look. He doesn't have all the battle scars yet. It's just like this, almost like Elephant Man character that you see in the mirror. Then it would make more sense for me. But we're seeing this tattered, fucked up, broken Jason. And it's like, why does his last appearance before he was blown up, if he's a demon thing, then shouldn't it show like a demon thing? Why is it showing that body he was in? Apparently he's been hopping bodies, so why is it showing that body instead of his true form? Like, all these questions are then raised, all from this thing that doesn't make any logical sense in this movie that, from my understanding, Mr. Marcus, is meant to be predicated on logic. Huh. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense in a movie that's based around logic. I can't quite find the logic of Creighton Duke just magically knowing everything about Jason without any explanation whatsoever. I don't know how he would know any of this. There's no, I cannot imagine the scenario in which he learns all of this stuff about Jason. Where does he get this information? He just magically knows it. Why? I don't know. Logic, I guess. I guess that's what logic is in Adam Marcus's universe. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to deuce chills, so I had to stop the commentary, as I mentioned, so I didn't get any more. So he might have explained that. I don't know. But I'm not going to listen to it because he is the most grating fucking human I've ever listened to. Now, moving on, more extras. We do get a new interview with Adam Marcus. Let's see, this is a 36-minute interview with Adam Marcus. He mentions the Tommy Jarvis trivia. Apparently, the best part of the movie, the wood scene, with that awesome kill that he's touting as like the best kill ever in a Jason movie. Yeah, that was added because the studio wanted it. That best part of the movie, the part that actually feels like a proper Friday the 13th movie, and has also the AIDS metaphor that he's very proud of, which the body hopping, it's an AIDS metaphor. So he was very hip in the year of our Lord 1993. Apparently he thought that was still a smart thing to do in 1993, which nothing wrong with an AIDS metaphor, don't get me wrong, but not exactly the most revolutionary thing to have in your movie in 1993. Yeah, he talks about how his relationship with the Cunninghams, how he wanted the characters to have real problems, and it's a fun idea to and to explore the town of Crystal Lake, which is great. It's a fun idea. But it's not the fucking movie you made. You don't actually explore the town of Crystal. Showing a diner does not explore the town of Crystal Lake. Let's see. We get Jason versus Terminator. This is just an extension of that interview. It's 11 minutes. He talks about his childhood friendship with Noel Cunningham and how that led to this travesty. Uber Jason is a 28-minute interview with Kane Hodder on playing Jason, in which he points out one of my big sticking points with this film, actually. Like, he perfectly illustrates the problem with Jason in this movie. He also criticizes Ken Kersinger's brief portrayal of Jason in his 2 stunts in Jason Takes Manhattan, which is kind of strange in a good way. That was a weird, surreal thing to listen to. He goes into a lot more, including his burn incident and doing motion capture for the Friday the 13th game. But suffice it to say, this is a great interview. This is actually the highlight of the disc by a pretty hefty margin. It's a very nice, kind of pulls the heartstrings a bit kind of interview. It's really good. And then we get additional TV footage with new optional audio commentary with director Adam Marcus and author Peter Bracke. I actually kind of like the additional footage. It gives us more character moments to work with. I think that's something that was missing from the film a lot. You kind of had all the character building stripped from the final product. So yeah, they're perfectly good scenes. You get more of Steven and his buddy hanging out, which is great. That would have been a great part of the actual film. I wish that was left in there. I've been told by Brian on the Discord that Adam Marcus compares himself to Scorsese in his commentary. So no, thank you. I did not listen to that commentary because I couldn't. I just couldn't. Let's see, and then we get an old commentary with Adam Marcus and Dean Laurie. They mentioned early on the idea of Jason in L.A., all that stuff. And Dean Laurie seems pretty cool, and he's a pretty good writer. Adam Marcus does not, and I hated listening to him, so I only listened to so much of that. But Dean Laurie seems cool. I like Dean Laurie. Let's see, beyond that, we get theatrical trailer, TV spots, movie stills galleries. We get a look at the Friday the 13th Prop Museum book, which I'm sure is fine. Let's see, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, that's Jason Goes to Hell. Here's the fucking inside, if you care. Ooh. So, yeah. Jason Goes to Hell. I know that this whole video is just a rant. I know a lot of people don't like Mean Michael. I don't like Mean Michael either, but I don't think I can get across in words how much I don't like Adam Marcus. He comes off as the most pretentious, self-obsessed, arrogant piece of shit I think I've ever seen. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I've seen interviews with directors who are pieces of shit. There are plenty of great directors who are pieces of shit. But the operative word there is great. I think that while there is no excuse to be a douchebag, if you can back up that douchebaggery, then it at least softens the blow. You can be a bad person, to an extent, obviously. And by being a great artist, we kind of look past that to some degree. We might make jokes about it, but it doesn't really affect the work. There's that separation of art and artist. But when the movie's bad, when it's not a particularly well-made film, when it has a fuckload of flaws, you're just an asshole. And you're an asshole who made a movie. Congratulations. Good job. You did it. You made a movie. In this instance, you made it because you were friends with the producer's son. So, that takes the edge off a little bit. But I'm not impressed with the work. If he had hand-made the special effects, that'd be different. But that's Robert Kurtzman and his crew over at K&B Effects. That's not you. This idea that somehow being controversial makes the movie good, that the fans just don't get it because they were fanboys who wanted more Jason. No, it's just not a good movie. And again, if you like it, you like it. But from my standpoint, as someone who really doesn't care about continuity that much, really doesn't care if people fuck around with the franchise, just the sheer audacity to completely change everything in a franchise and do it so poorly and just make kind of a bad movie that happens, again, to have amazing special effects and just be like, yep, I made a masterpiece. Not that he made you can tell he doesn't think he made a masterpiece, but he does compare himself to several masters of cinema. Masters of cinema, I should note, that every film school graduate wants to compare themselves to. Which makes me think that this guy, Adam Marcus, is just not a good director. And just farted his way into taking the reins on what was supposed to be the final film in one of Paramount's most lucrative franchises, which is so infuriating. The fact that they could have gotten so many great horror directors who know the genre and who would have been perfectly good fucking around with formula to make this movie. But instead they gave it to some kid because I guess there's a poetry in some youngster taking over this franchise started by youngsters, I guess, even though Sean Guest Cunningham was already pretty well established at that point, but whatever. Oh, God. It's just so infuriating. So yeah, I know this was really more of a rant than a review, but I don't. Usually, what I do to make these reviews is I watch the movie and maybe I take some notes, and then I watch it again with the commentary, and I take notes while I'm listening. It's kind of like listening to a podcast. And while I'm listening to the commentary, I'm also paying attention to what's going on, and I'm kind of saying, okay, well, there's that bit, and I can remember that scene, so I'm like, okay, well, here, this scene makes me think of that. I couldn't do that. I could not listen to that commentary again. I did not feel like watching this again. I didn't feel like skimming through this. So, bearing in mind, again, that quality is subjective and your mileage may vary, in my personal opinion, this movie's a piece of shit, and it is, without a doubt, in my soul, the worst movie in the Friday the 13th franchise. And that hurts to say. I really wanted to end this by saying that they were all good in their own way, but I just can't. Between the movie itself and listening to Adam Marcus just talk, no, I don't like this movie. And that's all I've got to say about it. So, go watch a movie, I guess.